This is AgGrad Live.
We have all of the different segments within the cotton.
The show that explores what it's really like to work in the ag industry.
So making sure that we get policy and regulatory issues
straight from the people who live it every day.
Hey everybody, Tim Hamrich here. This is my favorite time of the week where we get to hop on Facebook Live and profile someone doing exciting things in the world of agriculture. It's been especially fun this year as we have featured the 30 under 30 in agriculture that we selected as part of AgGrad. The first time we've ever done that. In fact, the first 30 under 30 in ag that I'm aware of, really has been an outstanding program, and bringing them on for this live broadcast has been especially fun because each one of them comes with a unique perspective on the industry and has exciting things that they're doing. And today's guest is definitely no different. Excited to bring on Mr. Jarrod Creasy. Jarrod, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having us, Tim. We're really excited.
I was admiring Jarrod's backdrop here, live from his living room. But Jarrod, you're the owner of 920 Cattle Company. Where are you located exactly?
That's right, Tim. We are located in southeast Georgia, just outside of Statesboro, about 45 minutes west of Savannah.
Okay, and is that where you're from originally?
Yeah, our farm, house and farm, our headquarter location is about 2.5 miles from where I grew up at.
Okay. Great. And so had you been like eyeballing that potential farm for your future career, like your entire life growing up, or how did this whole thing come about?
No, not really, not specifically. The church that I grew up in is actually adjoining our farm. I grew up watching this place. It had kind of lost production, I guess, back in the mid-'90s, and things just were just lingering around. And after college, spending some time in Texas and all, coming back to Bullitt County, doing some custom work for cattle producers and such, we had started looking around for property and wasn't really sure what we were looking for. And luckily, we came across this place. This is one really neat thing about what we've been able to do with our network and our connections of moving back to Bullitt County, was the lady, the owner, was ready to see it be rejuvenated, was ready to see it kind of take a different turn and get back on track. And she's actually owner financed it for us, and things like that, and really made it possible for us to get it and own initially our first piece of property.
That's fantastic. So I want to get more into that because a lot of people are going to be interested in how they can find arrangements of that sort. But before we do, take us back to pre-college Jarrod. What were you thinking you wanted to go to school for, and what were you thinking kind of the rest of your career was going to look like?
Absolutely. In high school and prior to high school, very involved in agriculture. 4-H and FFA played a huge part in my life, showing livestock, meats judging, livestock judging, everything you could dream of doing FFA and 4-H. I was also really big into sports, football, baseball, and basketball, and that really helped me from that team aspect, being able to figure all that stuff out and really learn how to do more outside of just myself, whether it was caring for livestock or caring for teammates or supporting teammates from that aspect. From a career side, I always wanted to do something in the livestock world. Of course, I had that dream of every young person of wanting to be a veterinarian. Got to probably a junior year of high school and had the opportunity to go take some courses through a program at UGA. That quickly turned a different table for me away from veterinary science, just simply because that wasn't for me. I wanted to be large animal, and at the time, the programs that were available just wasn't for the large animal market in our area. And then I guess the other really big push was row crops was around here always, cotton, peanuts, a little bit of corn, a little bit of beans. And that was always something in my blood, always wanting to be able to grow and do and learn more about crops and that science aspect. While my dad still had commercial cattle growing up and showing our show cattle, that was always a passion, but a lot of folks would always push to you in southeast Georgia, that's not a way to make a living. That's not a way that you're going to be able to provide for your family. And that's what I was always told until probably after I got into college a little bit, kind of grew my network and got a little bit bigger.
And was there a moment when you can remember and think where you started to think, okay, wow, this farming thing, like, it might be possible. Like I might be able to make a career out of this, or was it just kind of a slow process that has led you to this point?
No, sir. There was a defining moment. I took an internship to GKB Cattle Company in Waxahachie, Texas. Had some family out there, and always wanted to get away, get out of town, get out of Georgia. And probably about the first week I was out there, that was the most defining moment that I knew that it was possible. I knew that you had to find somewhat of a direction that we wanted to go in. But I believe I was sitting on a hay cutter, self-propelled hay cutter, which was a huge deal to me because we grew up with a little 3-point hitch cutter behind a tractor, and it took 4 days to mow down a 10-acre field, seemed like. But sitting in the middle of about 150-acre field, really getting some thoughts in, and just enjoying the peacefulness of that operation. I kind of had in my mind that whether it was in Texas, Georgia, or somewhere in the United States, I was going to be a first-generation cattle farmer. We were going to make that step, and at the time, I knew Becca, my wife, but we weren't married yet. We weren't even dating yet, but I knew at some point in the near future, I would venture out and figure out a way to make that work.
Okay, and when you say make it work, you mean both your eventual marriage and the cattle?
Absolutely.
Good. Well, congratulations on both of them. So a lot of people kind of have the dream, and some, I would say a few even resolve to make it happen, but very, very few can kind of figure out the steps. I think that's the hard part, is like, where do I start? And, eventually for you, you already kind of mentioned earlier, it led to this opportunity to return very close to where you grew up and to start this. So what were the steps for you that you could control that sort of led to kind of creating your own luck to the opportunity you fell into?
Quite frankly, we're still figuring that out. We're still developing those steps. We're still working towards that, but I guess thinking back and looking back at that, we weighed out kind of several different options. We weighed out the networking piece and the connection piece, of having these people that surround us right now that would want to help and that would want to see that success. It's all about leveraging that network. But the first step was trying to secure financing. We did not have the assets or the capital available to be able to do any of this. We got married. I was still doing a lot of custom work around Georgia and South Carolina. We got married and didn't have a whole lot of money, didn't have a whole lot of anything other than a lot of debt and college debt, student loan debt, and then, a debt from a wedding and things like that. And we went out and we started beating the bushes. And I know that's kind of cliche and kind of an average term, but I mean, it's all about being able to have the nerve and the ability to go ask and be told no. And you talk about that steps piece. There's a lot of steps that you're going to have to get through that you're going to be told no probably 100 times, but it only takes that one time of yes, we'll figure out a way to help you to make that happen. From another step standpoint, and I want to be careful how I say this, but from another step that we did already have, and we learned a lot about the connections that we were able to come back and make ourselves. I was told and still am told 5 years later that, oh, you're Noel's son. Yes, that's right. And that has its perks and definitely has its benefits, but that wasn't quite what we were chasing. We wanted, you're Jarrod Becca Creasy. You're with 920. That's what we're wanting to do. So a step that you have to take and you have to figure out, and I don't know that I'm answering it directly, Tim, to what you're looking for. But we always say that you have to surround yourself with the best people that you possibly can to be able to help you become the best of yourself. You hear that a lot as people saying 5 people or whatever that might be, but we definitely don't limit it to 5. we limit it to as many people as we can surround ourselves with. And whether that's in our community or nationwide or across the country, across the big pond in another country, we really try to push that. And quite frankly, that's probably one of the steps that we're still working on. We're still weeding through. And not that we don't want those other people in our lives, because we learn so much from them, but that's probably the biggest step right now that we're facing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, because I think, where some people maybe struggle is they come up with a plan, and then as soon as they get into that plan, they realize, oh, wow, there's a bunch of things that I couldn't possibly have thought of, and right. They want to kind of throw the whole plan out. So you have to, it's important to plan as much as possible, but you also have to kind of commit to, when times get tough, you surround yourself with those great people, and you get through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, tell us more about the business today, because you have kind of dove in head first into not just raising cattle, but doing some other value add and service type businesses. So give us kind of a big picture of your company today.
So, and I guess if it's all right, I'll just kind of take it a step back. 920 Cattle and Company was started in 2014. We started as a purebred cattle operation, raising Brangus and Angus cattle. After that first season or so, when we had to buy hay, we realized real quick with Mother Nature and the way hay prices were that we could pay for some equipment to make that happen. So we started purchasing some hay equipment, started doing some custom things in that route. Since 2014 and 2015, we have grown our operation very, very diversely. We now have a commercial hay production to where we contract out hay and sell hay across the Southeast, as well as quality hay, mulch hay, straw for Home Depot, and places like that. And then from that aspect, we got involved in the fencing business. Once again, one of those things from a service side, we already had the equipment from doing our own fencing. Had a hay customer call actually and need some fence put up. So we kind of jumped on it and went on down that wagon. And now we run on average a couple of crews a year, depending on the season. We do everything from commercial fencing to ag fencing, and still do a little bit of residential work, around the community and the county as needed, just depending on what's needed to fill the time slots. But our newest and biggest venture, probably one of the most exciting ones that we have taken on to date, is the whole farm to table aspect. We are one of a handful in the Southeast of our size that completely controls everything from the pasture to the plate on our beef operation. We were able to purchase a butcher facility that was built in the 1950s originally, about a year and a half ago. And we do custom work there for other producers, pork, lamb, goat, pigs. We also process deer, and wild game. And we're a USDA inspected facility. We were able to close that deal from a state facility to a USDA inspected facility about 6 months ago. But, the really neat thing about the pasture to plate side, and one very, very challenge to our industry, but really an exciting piece of it, is that we're now not just the voice for the cattle industry, but for the meat industry, for the production industry, for the grain industry. Like, we're able to take all of that because we're in that production side, where we grow our own feed, we grow our own hay, we grow our own forages. We're able to take it to the next level because we are the backbone, we are the face, we are the seller, we're the maker, we own all of it. And it's very challenging at times. We take place in a farmer's market in Savannah at Forsyth Park. And it is awesome to go down there and talk to these folks that don't understand where their food comes from. They don't have, the ability to go see. They don't have the ability or the background in their family or in their position to know. They think that it literally comes from the grocery store shelf, or that we went and bought it from a grocery store to bring out there to that farm, to that market, excuse me. So it's really neat to be able to go and have those conversations. And, for those people to see that are so far removed from ag, for those guys to see the passion that we have in our products, in our ability to bring them that fresh and that quality meat or product in general, it's just an awesome feeling to be able to see their reactions and see what they do. And that kind of, as a whole, that's kind of what we do. I mean, we've got a lot of other niche things going on that, and I say niche, little specialty things that we do different times of the year, just depending on the season or depending on what we might have extra time-wise. Because getting back to those steps that we had talked about earlier, it's very important to be able to fill those steps or fill those time slots just for cash flow purposes and reasons like that. And, diversity is key, is what we've learned as a, first generation operation.
Okay, so you just listed about 6 full-time jobs, and then said what you like to do in your extra time. So how does that work? I mean, you're in a rural area, and everybody is talking about how difficult it is to get qualified help in a rural area. The cattle business is at least one full-time job, if not multiple. And then you go direct to consumer. Consumers are great, but they can be high maintenance, not negatively. Just they want what they want.
Absolutely.
And then the processing side and the fencing and the custom hay. I mean, this is a lot of work. So how have you been able to grow? And how have you been able to find help? And when, hold on, I've got like a million questions. So let's start there. How have you been able to grow, and how have you been able to find help for this?
So, I'm going to answer it, and then I'm going to tell you that I don't have an answer. And that's the hard part. Labor is absolutely the most challenging piece to our businesses in general. I think the biggest struggle is finding not necessarily that qualified help, but people that want to show up to work. We can train somebody how to do anything and everything if they're teachable and if they will learn, but they have to show up first. Where we're at, we've been blessed locally right here in probably a 7 to 8 county area. There's a lot of different things going on for young people, for people in general to be around or to be close by. We're not like in the Midwest where there's towns and, the population of those towns or 7 counties around there isn't greater than 10,000 people. So, that's one benefit that we have had the ability of. The other thing is that we take full potential or full opportunity, to go to colleges, to go to these schools and talk to these clubs, talk to the Cattlemen's Association, talk to the FFA chapters at these colleges, whether that's at a tech school, at a 4-year degree school. We take full opportunity to be able to go and talk to these people. It might be the middle of hay season, but we know that we've got to go and share our message and share who we are and what we believe in to be able to get that labor to come back to our areas, to be able to get those guys to come back and want to work for us. The hardest part to me, though, you had asked about the growth piece and then the labor aspect, and looking at it from that side and looking at it from an outsider in. A lot of people that we have here, they're not necessarily local. A lot of our managers we've brought in out of state. We've brought in from other parts of the state. And that's huge for us because that's a long process. We want to make sure that they're a good fit, but at the same time, we need them when we need them, and that's not always how that works. And we didn't jump into all of this at once. It was spread out over about 5 years. And the growth aspect, when we see an opportunity, we jump on it. And I'll be completely honest, there's been times on different things, whether that's contract work or fence work, and we say, we probably should have looked at that a little harder. But that's part of learning and figuring that piece out.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. You gotta be okay with feeling like you failed. I mean, not necessarily total failure, but right. Saying, hey, we're going to take this on because the opportunity is good enough that if we fail, it'll be worth trying for. So Man, I think that's cool. I want to go back to your beginnings, though, because I really believe people create their own luck, and I believe you did. So I know you said that your start in farming was because the owner was willing to finance it, meaning, they wanted you to farm the ground, and you didn't have to pay a big chunk down payment to a bank, I'm assuming, and they're allowing you to acquire the property over time. How did that come about? Because you don't see a lot of classified ads saying like, hey, well, someone just come take over my farm and finance you. How does something like that come about, and how might others try to create their own luck in that way?
I think one neat thing for my experience is I did spend time in Texas. I spent time in South Carolina, working for different people, kind of experiencing different environments to where people's personalities are different depending on where they live at. The culture of life's a little different. It's not something you're going to find in a newspaper, like you said. It's not something you're going to see on a Facebook ad. It's about being able to look into a situation and know that there's an opportunity. But to your point of creating your own luck, I'm not scared of being told no. We asked probably, I don't know, I'm going to say a total of 6 to 8 landowners that we had a relationship with, or I'd had a relationship with growing up, about the opportunity to purchase land. 3 of those 8 didn't balk or turn around at the thought of owner finance. And this one where we're at now is actually the 9th. And she actually brought it up. So it's not something that is going to just present itself on a silver platter. It's something you're going to have to do your homework on. And quite frankly, the safest way to go about doing it, or the most secure way to go about doing it, in my opinion, is like, I can think back, a lot of those guys, they wanted to know what you were going to do. They wanted to know how you were going to make those payments. Well, like I'd said previously, this being a row crop town, when you mention the word cattle and hay, people laugh at you. You get a lot of chuckles. But we had an awesome business plan and an awesome model that we kind of had formulated and built up on, quality and the standards of what we wanted from the hay and cattle aspect. And, a lot of folks really enjoyed seeing that and being able to understand it. So like, my advice would be find that business model of what you're wanting to do and go sit down with people. And if they tell you no the first time, make them tell you no 10 times. If you have that older farmer that's next to you, and you've got that relationship already built in, go have that conversation. He doesn't want to see that, he or she doesn't want to see that land go anywhere but back into farming. And the only way you're ever going to know is if you go and ask, and just have your P's and Q's in line, have your T's crossed and your I's dotted. And, when you go over there, just be prepared to more or less tell him everything that you don't want to tell him. You've got to put it all out there, and you got to put it all on the table, and make him tell you no 10 times, and then go ask for the 11th one, and see what he says.
I like it because, I think a lot of people would say, oh boy, how awkward will that be if I ask somebody for something and they say no? And in my experience, not really. I mean, if you're respectful and you're clear about what you want, and you're going to be respected even more so for it, for having sort of the gumption to go after what you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so cool. And for any of you watching, one opportunity, of course, you've already got like a handful of successful businesses you're operating, but for someone else, I've been up talking to farmers in North Dakota, and so many of them are on the soil health journey, and they see the next evolution, putting cattle on grazing their cover crops with cattle, and they don't want the cattle. They want someone else to come in there and graze it. I'm just thinking, oh, wow, there's so much opportunity here for someone who wants to have a cattle business, but doesn't, isn't able to afford land. So anyway, you have to deal with North Dakota winters, but I think there's some opportunity up there. All right, back to the broadcast here. What I'm sure in the past year or so, there's been plenty of frustrating days. But can you think back to one that and it doesn't have to be in the last year, but in recent years that you can think of that was the opposite, that you thought, you know what, this is exactly why we go through those frustrating days. This is why I do what I do.
Yes, absolutely. Whether and if it's all right, I'll give you a couple examples. Whether it's right now the coolest thing to me is our little 2.5-year-old little girl. She wants to go, and she wants to go and do, and she wants to go and see and be involved and just have a place and a love for what me and Becca share and what we have the love for and what we're doing. So I think one of the most awesome moments here in the past few weeks actually is either when we have a new calf born and she's out there with us, and whether she comes up there and brushes its nose or holds the tagging pliers trying to sit there, tagging gun while we're trying to tag and weigh and do cattle wise. Or even at our butcher facility, a lot of people will ask us, do you let her go back there, in that environment? Absolutely. We want her to be exposed to as much as she can be exposed to, and she'll go in the hanging cooler there with cattle on the rail, and we don't let her touch or anything like that. But it's just awesome that she wants to go back there and she wants to see it. And she wants to see everything that we do. And, that's one of the biggest reasons why we're doing what we are doing is hopefully, if she wants to come back, or if another young person wants to come back, if Finley doesn't have any desire to do what we're doing, if someone else in the community or in the country wants it, we want to build a program and an operation that folks want to come and take place in, that they want to be involved with and know, blood, sweat, and tears built this, and I want to be a part of it. The other thing I'd have to say, and we've, they say the first 5 years of business is the toughest. And it has been. Year 4 and 5 have been very interesting, whether it's been weather, whether it's been trying to figure out different routes to go from that custom side. But what makes it the most enjoyable is when you can go places, and whether it's pulling into a new pasture to cut hay down and just, gathering a beautiful crop of hay with no rain on it, and being able to get it in the barn, and just the smell of that aroma of hay, or a newborn calf being born, or, when you have a neighbor stop by and just tell you what an awesome job you're doing. That makes all those frustrating days and days where you go, man, that 9 to 5 doesn't look bad. That's the things that make the days go on. And then at the end of the day, knowing that we get to come back inside the house and look out the back doors here, and see cattle graze, and this is something me and Becca thought that we wouldn't ever be able to have for 10, 15 years, being able to live on the farm and have cattle right here outside. That there's numerous things throughout the days that make it worth it by all means.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing all that. We did have a comment. Janelle Pierce Davis says, persistence pays off. That's good. That's what I should have titled this episode, actually. Maybe I will podcast, but absolutely correct. And I think you are such a wonderful example of somebody, who knows what he wants and is willing to go after it. And I think if there's one thing that I worry about, and I don't want to sound like a kind of get off my porch guy here or anything, but we are so used to having everything easy for us on our phones. Order food, order a ride, order anything, that I think stories like yours of like, hey, you can do this. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. And it's probably not going to get easier 5 years in, right? I mean, it's
right.
going to be hard, but you can do it through persistence. And I think that's I love talking about this stuff. One more question I want to ask you before we let you go on the direct-to-consumer stuff, because you're selling in Savannah, which is, an urban environment at a farmer's market. I'm sure you're talking to people who maybe don't fully understand, what you do. How has that been for you? And if there's any sort of findings from interacting direct-to-consumer, has that changed the way you look at your own business?
You kind of went out on that first part there, Tim. if you want to try it one more time.
Yeah, I could try it one more time. I was just asking about selling direct to consumers in Savannah. If kind of hearing their perspective on you, not maybe fully understanding what you do, has changed the way you look at your business at all.
It has. It has changed things completely on different aspects. We definitely weigh those options when folks have conversations with us, and some things in particular is how we tell our story, how we share what we do to make sure they understand. We've got our farm talk. I can sit here all day and talk about forage, and everybody in the ag world will understand what forage is. That's just an example. Down there, those folks don't know what forage really means. They don't really have an understanding of what that terminology is. So we really try to figure out how to tell our story and how to share what we do for our animals, how to share what we I apologize, trying to help them understand that, our animals come first, that the way we treat our animals isn't the way that you see on social media, and that's the biggest challenge that we have. I think the main question, the first one comes, are you grass fed? And then the second one is, well, how do you treat your animals? How do you do that? So the biggest thing that we've been faced with is, our employees that we have and all of that. We really try to push, this is how we need to share our story. This is how, these people already portray us. We are working against the odds to try to bring all that back together and post one of the prettier pictures, that you could see. And that's the hard part, is that there's so many people already out to get us. And folks in Savannah, they're not necessarily out to get us, but they just don't have that understanding. So we have taken that back into our business model and make sure that, whether it's on social media or on our websites or anything like that, we try really hard to paint that picture, to let them understand our story. And that's what it's all about, whether, no matter where you're at in your businesses or what you're in an ag world, it's all about that story that people are able to see. And I don't know if that answered your complete question, but that's something that we brought back to our business model as a whole, and just made sure of the clarity that people see of what we do.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Now, can we buy your beef online? Can I in Idaho order beef from you, and where do I go? Because there's people from all over the country watching and or listening to this, and by now they're already sold. So where do you go?
Absolutely. You can visit 920cattle.com. And you can go there and click on 920 store, I believe, on the website. And then you can also follow along with social media with Instagram and Facebook at 920 Cattle and Company. But be sure to check us out. We can ship nationwide. We can even ship it across the big pond out there, as we say. We can even ship it across there if people are willing to give it that investment to try it.
Very cool. Well, the 30 under 30, when we set out to do this program, we thought, okay, we would really like the list to reflect people who have, made great advancements in their career, great contributions to their community, shown exemplary character, and have also contributed back to the industry. And I can't think of anyone who's done all four of those things better than you, Jarrod. So really, thank you for being a part of the program. Congratulations. I hope people watching, use your example as people they should nominate for next year's 30 under 30, because it's really inspiring. So thank you for all that you do for the industry. And I'm excited to see the future of your entrepreneurial endeavors.
That sounds good. Thanks, Tim. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining AgGrad Live. Visit aggrad.com, that's AGGRAD, to join the community, create your profile, and learn more about careers in the agriculture industry.